Hi everyone, hope you are feeling positive and healthy. Please subscribe with all bell notifications if you haven't already, and please don't hesitate to leave your valuable feedback and advice below. Thank you very much. Let's jump into the stories. Am I the unreasonable one for flipping out on BF after he went on a couple's retreat without me? I'm 29F, my boyfriend is 30 meters. I have 2 kids that are not his biologically and we have been together 4 years. Last week his buddy invited him and I to go on a 4-day couples retreat with him, his wife and his other friend and his GF. Apparently there is couples massages, romantic dinners, etc. We were due to leave today. My BF mentioned it to me, so I started looking around for babysitters. Unfortunately I was not able to find a sitter. Their dad hardly ever takes them and their grandmother is just as much of a deadbeat and only sees the kids to post photos on FB and act like grandmother of the year. Normally when we make plans he will reach out to his mom or sister-in-law because they are the only people in our area. He didn't do that, so I called them yesterday to see if they would, but obviously they couldn't. I figured since I could not go, he would not go on the couple's retreat. I wake up this morning at 5 a.m. to him packing. I asked him what he was doing and he said packing? I need to leave here by 7 a.m. to meet up with George. So I asked him why he still intended to go on a couple's retreat when his partner couldn't even go, and I asked him if he had even wanted me to go since he didn't bother helping me look for a sitter originally anyways, and he said if you wanted to go, you would have found a sitter. I don't have time for this. This really bothered me a great deal. He kissed my forehead and left. 15 minutes ago I get a text from him which included pictures of his suite that had flower petals, champagne, even a heart-shaped bed. I texted back and said have a good time. He took this as an attack and said don't be clipped with me. It's not my fault you didn't find a sitter. So I responded with I wasn't being clipped, and it would have been nice if you could have helped find a sitter. I know they aren't your kids, but if you wanted me to go you should have put in effort. He responded with you're being an a-hole right now and quite frankly, you're being overdramatic as well. Am I the unreasonable one for getting upset with the fact that he went without me? Not the unreasonable one. He's supposed to be your partner. The whole if you wanted to go you would have found a sitter could easily be turned into if he wanted you to go he would have found a sitter. It's a weak argument. The fact that he took have a nice time as a confrontational text rather than genuine makes it seem to me like he knew he was doing something that would bother you. It's all very unnecessary emo. You aren't the a-hole. Not the unreasonable one, and I have a strong feeling that someone who isn't you is there with him. Am I the unreasonable one for not telling someone I can read lips? This happened pre the pandemic BTW. I've had hearing loss for most of my life, but it was diagnosed when I was about 7 years old. So I learned to read lips at the same time I was learning to speak. I'm very proficient in reading lips. Whenever I work with someone new, I make sure to let them know that I have hearing loss and to make sure that they are facing me and I'm aware they're talking to me. I've never actually mentioned to any co-workers that I could read lips and but I'm pretty sure most of them at least suspect it strongly. A new co-worker started and I did my customary introduction and disclaimer about my hearing. I don't think she believed me because she got very offended when I ignored her. The problem being she was trying to get my attention from behind me and I genuinely did not hear her. Once someone got my attention I apologized to her and pointed out that I did have hearing loss and I wasn't aware that she was talking to me. A few days later she was venting to a mutual co-worker. The only problem was she was facing me and I could read her lips perfectly. After a few minutes I approached her and let her know that if she was going to talk someone she needed to make sure they couldn't understand her and that I was reading her lips the entire time. I told her I was upset that she wouldn't just come to me, and that I did tell her twice that I was partially deaf and couldn't hear her. She freaked out because apparently I was being rude by reading her lips when she was facing me. Not the unreasonable one. Sounds like you taught her a very important lesson and she was embarrassed. Glad you called her out and stuck up for yourself. I have a severe progressive hearing loss and read lips. I can't turn it off. Did you know puppets say blah, blah, blah? Not the unreasonable one. Am I the unreasonable one for telling my sister-in-law to stop pushing her bullcrap off on my relationship? My sister-in-law is in her late 30s. Myself and my husband, her brother, are both 26. I have been married to him for going on 6 years and we have been together since the end of freshman year of HS. Very briefly we stayed with her. I think we moved in when we were 19 and we left about 6 months later when we bought our first home. Throughout the entire time we were there, she did nothing but crap all over my husband. She was constantly speaking horribly of him because of the decisions he made before we started dating. She continuously told me to watch my back because she feared for my happiness and feared that he would F me over. Needless to say, my husband has been fantastic to me since the very beginning. So, I had dealt with this for a while, had multiple discussions with my husband, and he basically just wanted to leave it alone. He chalked it up to her just being a negative person due to her marriage slowly failing. He refuses to help her with anything, but he also goes about it like she has never said anything. His way of coping, I guess. Last weekend we were invited over for a barbecue. A few family members showed up that I had yet to meet. However, my sister-in-law at one point started bashing my husband, in front of everyone, the second that he walked away to go help her son with something that she refused to help him with. Her comments ranged from him being a terrible husband to having zero work ethic. He has been with the same company for almost 7 years. The whole family was tuned in, listening to her bash him, and not one person spoke up. I was trying desperately to do as he wanted and just leave it alone, but her final comment of "he will always be a nobody" really struck a nerve. I looked at her and said, "Do you not have anything better to do with your life? Do you seriously think that anyone wants to hear you openly bash a man who has done nothing to you? Your own brother, no less?" The family fell silent and my sister-in-law was just gawking at me. This is the first time I have spoke out of line. She finally said something like, "I know him better than you. You seem to forget that." So I said, "Well, say it to his face then, instead of being freaking two-faced and pushing your bullcrap off on me or any of us for that matter. Where's your husband? Why are we not discussing that he doesn't even hang out at a family barbecue or sleep in the same bed anymore?" She stormed away from the table after telling me that my disrespect was disgusting. Apparently she was crying in the bathroom when my mother-in-law found her. Everyone in the group started saying things like, "Is she always like this?" Or "He seems like a damn good man to me." Or "Yeah, where is Chris anyways?" Chris is sister-in-law's husband. So needless to say, everyone was on my side except my other sister-in-law, who has gone to great measures to make sure I know that she now freaking hates me and thinks I'm a dumb a-hole. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. Nya, you the boss. That was murder by fax. You spilled the tea and she is just bished up. Congrats for finally unmasking the monster for all to see. You done good. Edited to say, NTA, cause my fat fingers did it to me. And to thank the stranger for taking my gold virginity. It didn't even hurt. Not the unreasonable one. Good for you for sticking up for your husband. I can't imagine putting my sibling down like that. We certainly tease each other, but man, that was brutal. Am I the unreasonable one for refusing to take my brother and his pregnant wife in after he told me to abort my son? IF28 was 5 weeks pregnant with my son Jack when my husband got involved in an auto accident that left him on ventilator for a few days, then he passed away. This absolutely ended me. I was going through the worst days of my life. I had to go to the hospital. I was suffering from anemia because I didn't eat for 2 days following the funeral. I felt tired, weak and pale all the time. My family, who hated my husband, especially my brother, showed up at the hospital and started talking about my health and how the pregnancy was probably causing this, and he told me I should consider abortion since being a new widow, having health problems weren't suitable condition to raise a child in. I was in disbelief. I knew he hated my husband and hated that I was pregnant with his baby, so he brought up abortion to get rid of him permanently. I was so mad. I asked him how could he expect me to let go of the last piece I have of my husband who was taken from me all of a sudden. I told him how my husband was so excited to be a dad and how much this meant to him. I called him selfish and insensitive for even thinking about it, and I cut contact with him after that. Now my son is 3 months old. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't wish that my husband was here with us. It's so unfair, and my son didn't deserve not having his dad around. Last week, my mom called me. She started talking about my brother's financial struggles and how he could no longer pay for rent because his work project that he put money got canceled. She suggested that he and his pregnant wife could come stay at my place for a couple of months till he figured out something. She said she has no room for them in her house because she already has her niece stay with her after she and her husband divorced. I told her that I couldn't let him live with me after he blatantly told me to get abortion just out of spite and hate for my husband. I told her how hurt I felt and how difficult it was to realize that my son was rejected by him and now he wants to be part of my and my son's life. My mom lashed out, saying that I should let go of the past and that I can't just refuse to let his pregnant wife in and cause them to be homeless. I told her no, but she tried to argue and pressure me into saying yes. I hung up on her, but she kept calling to shame me and guilt trip and say that I was being cruel and selfish. Not the unreasonable one. In no way are you remotely the ass, and you should continue to hang up on her. How would your brother feel if you told him to abort his baby because being broke and nowhere to live is no way to bring up a child? Not the unreasonable one. I don't know your financial situation, obviously, but you are a new widow with a 3-month-old baby. You deserve to protect your peaceful home while you grieve and raise your baby alone. Don't give your brother's plight another thought. Am I the unreasonable one for kicking out my sister after she sabotaged a meeting with a fertility clinic? 8 years ago, my 29 years old female sister, 32 years old female, got pregnant. The father wasn't involved and my sister didn't want the baby, but she also couldn't bring herself to terminate or adopt out to strangers. She approached me and my, now ex-husband, and asked if we would be willing to adopt her child. We weren't sure as we were concerned this would lead to issues down the line, but my sister insisted that it wouldn't, so we ultimately agreed. Before Lucy was a year old, my husband left us both because my sister lied about Lucy's father. When Lucy was 4, I got together with my wife, and we married last year. My sister has said that seeing me and my wife with Lucy, who is now 7, confirms to her that she made the right decision. When I first adopted Lucy, my husband and I told my sister that we wanted multiple children, which she said she was fine with at the time. But now my wife and I are looking into our options and my sister objects. My sister has been staying with us since July because her boyfriend kicked her out. She keeps asking Lucy if she's sure she wants siblings. Lucy has said that she does, and telling us she's worried we won't be able to give Lucy what she needs. And then today happened. We had an online consultation with a fertility clinic to talk about sperm donation. We told my sister about it and asked her to keep an eye on Lucy while we talked. The Wi-Fi went randomly on and off 3 times during the session, booting us out of the call each time. The third time, my wife went to check it and saw my sister holding the power cord, and Lucy trying to plug it back in. Lucy saw my wife and said, "Auntie keeps turning the Wi-Fi off." Wife plugged it back in, but we could no longer get into the session and we got an email from the doctor saying that if the Wi-Fi is going to be this bad then maybe we should try a more local clinic as we can't do online consultations. When we confronted my sister, she admitted that she wants Lucy to be an only child so she has 100% of our undivided attention, and then said in a sarcastic tone, "Forgive me for only wanting what's best for my daughter," to which we responded that Lucy isn't her daughter. Things escalated until I said that my sister should go stay with our parents, and my wife drove her to their place. Since leaving, a few hours ago, she's apologized and begged to come back, and my parents have also asked me to take her back, but I've refused. They've all called me an asshole for kicking my own sister out after one argument, because now she's unable to get to work, no car and too far to walk, and she's back in her childhood room while at our place she had a studio to herself behind the house. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one. She messed with the Wi-Fi and ruined a consultation that could have given your little family a lovely new addition. She ruined and delayed something that was important to your family. Call the clinic back and explain that the Wi-Fi problem has been solved and you'd like another consultation. Not the unreasonable one. This is grounds for a permanent ban in my opinion, especially with the "my daughter" comment. Am I the unreasonable one for intentionally blindsiding my pregnant roommate to avoid a confrontation? I have been living with my roommate, Holly, for almost 1.5 years. Holly wasn't a good roommate. I was doing most of the chores. I didn't like her much, but she seemed to think that I was a really good friend of hers. Anytime I tried to talk to her, she would either deflect or give excuses. She told me once that it was my fault because I do it better than her and she is now not used to doing chores. 6 months ago, she told me that she got pregnant. I was covering half of her rent too because she didn't have any money. I wanted to ask her to move out, but again, she would say something, or give excuses or start crying and I would back off. Few months later, situation has got worse for her. Quit her job, couldn't find another. We were speaking one day and she told me how lucky she felt having a friend like me. She thanked me for being so nice about the rent and the food, and she also told me she is not feeling scared about being a single mom as I would be there to help her. I freaked out hard. Helping out a person when they are in a spot is one thing, but it was clear that she was expecting me to help her even after the baby was born. I didn't want that. Another month passed by. I was making plans to leave. Me and my friend found an apartment to share. On Sept 3, when she wasn't at home, I moved all my things to my new apartment. Since most of the things outside her room was mine, the apartment was pretty bare when I left. I called my landlord and informed him that I won't be renewing my lease, which was ending at the end of September. He promised to return my security deposit in full at the end of the month. After that, I left a message to Holly that I have moved out and she has to talk to the landlord about her situation from next month. To be clear, I paid my share of the rent for this month to the landlord and told him to ask Holly about the rest and about making a new lease/new security deposit. I refused to attend any more calls from her. Bottom line is I left a 8 to 9 months pregnant woman who was depending on me for many things, like rent, food, etc. On her own during a pandemic while she was jobless, she had left me multiple voicemails and telling me how I should have talked to her and at least given a heads up instead of just moving out. She told me that she is struggling a lot and she is about to give birth soon and that I need to help her. She is saying that it's lousy of me to help her so much and then abandon her. She told me that she wants to meet me and explain things. She thinks that talking to her would make me move back. I refuse to respond. All my friends have conflicted opinions. Some think I could have just talked to her and resolved it. Some think that I should have at least given her a heads up. Some think I should move back in. Many think that it's not my fault at all. Again, she has 1 month to figure things out with the landlord before the lease ends. I didn't talk to her because it never worked in the past and I didn't want to be guilt-tripped out of moving. Here for unbiased opinions. Am I the unreasonable one? Not the unreasonable one, because she is intentionally gaslighting you. There is clearly some victim blaming / emotional manipulations going in here. Even if it's small, it's your fault I am not able to pay rent / do chores. You do it better than me. You kept doing it, so it's your fault that I am not able to do now. You tried to talk to her. You tried to get her to do chores. Didn't work. You tried to talk about paying rent properly. Didn't work. Each time she pulled some emotional manipulation, crying / deflecting / gaslighting. So, you didn't have any reason to think that talking would work. You could have given her a notice to move out when she couldn't pay rent. Instead, you helped her. Even now, she has 1 month to figure things out with the landlord, which is the standard notice period. Warning her would have been the nice thing to do. But it sounds like she would have again tried to manipulate you into staying. It isn't your fault or responsibility, OP. You were more than nice. She is just a mooch and a horribly entitled one at that. Don't worry about this anymore. Edit to OP. Hey OP, I understand that you don't like confrontations. But setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, saying no, identifying when people are taking advantage of you are incredibly important life skills. While it worked out this time for you, it always may not. I strongly suggest that you work on how to assert yourself better. Everyone sucks here. Yes, she was taking advantage of you and that makes her an a-hole, but you went low when you could have gone high here and at least have given her a heads up about it, and left her in a serious bind. You had the opportunity to remove yourself from the situation and still be the bigger person, but you chose to screw her over on your way out. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.